Hello everybody, welcome to today's video. Today is part 3 of chapter 5, Motives and Manners. It's not just what you say, it's why and how you say it. Mama was right. Mind your manners. My mother-in-law is a stickler for manners. Her 5 children were taught which fork to use at a fancy meal, not to take a bite of dessert until the hostess was seated, and always to hold open the door for others. These manners help her offspring to not only be proper, but thoughtful and kind as well. Being being intentional in weighing our motives and careful in expressing our thoughts is one side of the equation when it comes to using words well. But there's still more. What happens when words that sting are said, but we're not the ones who said them? How we respond when we are on the receiving end of painful comments, regardless of whether they're spoken with good intentions or wrong motives, is just as important as examining our motives. Like Deborah Barone on Everybody Loves Raymond, I too have a member of my extended family who says things that hurt me. Over the years, I have often found myself in tears at family get-togethers. I have had my mothering skills subtly slammed. My method of making lasagna called into question. While I haven't been chided for being a bad housekeeper, I have been called a clean freak and a show-off for keeping my home organized. And worst of all are the cutting remarks about my weight. At my daughter's 13th birthday, we hosted a huge crowd with members present from both sides of our extended family. We gathered out on our back deck on a delightfully sunny May afternoon. There was mesquite grilled chicken and lemon pepper blackened pork chops. I put out my famous cheesy potato casserole alongside a ruby red stack of watermelon slices. Pink and purple streamers decorated the deck, and my daughter was in her glory, seeing all of the relatives gather to pay tribute to her becoming a teenager. I let everyone else go through the food line first and made sure my 2 boys had all their food and utensils and were settled at the picnic table ready to enjoy their birthday feast. The birthday feast. I then went through the food line and admittedly piled my plate too high with all of the birthday foods. At the end of the line was an assortment of cheesecakes, marble swirl, caramel pecan, raspberry white chocolate, and apple praline. Just as I placed a piece of cheesecake on my already mountainous pile of food, I heard this particular relative pipe up. This person began speaking to another extended family member who had recently been diagnosed with diabetes and had dropped about 30 pounds. "Oh, Jerry," well, we'll call him Jerry here, "you look marvelous. How much weight have you lost? I tell you, you look like a teenager. That diabetes was the best thing that ever happened to you. You look fabulous." Then, without missing a beat, this person turned to me and in front of the crowd of people, about 15 in all, boldly declared, "Hey Karen, maybe you should get diabetes." Totally not kidding. I was so embarrassed and hurt. Although I am normally a chatterbox, I had no words to speak. Somehow, I muddled through the rest of the party and then later cried myself to sleep. My relationship with this person continued to be strained over the years. Not only would they speak words to my face that were hurtful, but I also found out from other relatives that they often talked behind my back. And sometimes they clipped magazine articles about what they considered one of my shortcomings and popped them in the mail to me just to make a point. Another relative once asserted to me that although this person's words often came across as spiteful and caustic, they, like Marie Barone's, really were motivated by love. Perhaps not with their comments about how I cooked or cleaned or raised my children, but when it came to my weight, they did not want to see me die prematurely from a heart attack like an aunt of mine had at about my age. and I guess they felt that calling me out in public and making comments to me about it whenever they saw me was going to motivate me to make a life change before it was too late. Still, I harbored grudges. I could find neither forgiveness nor kindness in my heart for this difficult relative. But then came the day my daughter played the lead in the 8th grade production at her homeschool academy. That year they did The Hiding Place, the story of Corrie ten Boom, a Dutch Christian who, along with other members of her family, helped hide Jews during the height of the Holocaust. Corrie and her sister Betsy were imprisoned for their actions, and Betsy died in the infamous Ravensbrück concentration camp. At the end of the play, a riveting scene takes place well after the war in which Corrie was out on the speaking circuit talking about her experiences. She was telling others about the love of Christ, who offers forgiveness to all, no matter what they have done. After one of her talks, an audience member approached her, and Corrie recognized him as a former prison guard from Ravensbrück. This guard, known as the Snake, had been cruel beyond belief, stripping prisoners and making them parade naked in front of members of the opposite sex. He had withheld food and medicine and had actually cost Corrie's sister Betsy her very life. As the man approached her, Corrie felt hatred welling up in her heart, but the guard, after hearing Corrie's message, had come forward to ask for her forgiveness. Stunned, Corrie couldn't answer for a moment. Although she had suffered such abuse at the hand of this person and obviously had ill feelings toward him, she remembered what she had been speaking on that night: the love and forgiveness of Jesus Christ. She then thought, how could I not extend forgiveness to this one who had so cruelly mistreated me when Jesus offered me forgiveness for my sins, which were exactly what nailed him to the cross? And so this messenger of the gospel extended her hand in forgiveness to her former captor. As I sat in the dark auditorium that spring evening watching my daughter portray this amazing woman, I had this thought: how could Corrie ten Boom forgive someone who treated her so brutally and even cost her sister her life, when I can't seem to forgive a family member who slams my domestic skills or makes an occasional crack about my weight? With tears streaming down my face, I decided that my unforgiveness was holding me in a prison too. Of course, it wasn't a physical place, but it was an awful place in my mind. There is truth to the old saying, unforgiveness is like sipping on poison and then expecting the other person to die. I knew this kind of poison could no longer be my beverage of choice. I chose to forgive this relative and to continue forgiving them whenever they made comments in the future. This doesn't mean I lie down as a doormat. Quite the opposite. In fact, my husband and I have put some boundaries in place when it comes to this person. I don't ever spend time with them alone, since that seems to be the prime time when the cutting comments fly. Of course, there are times, like at my daughter's birthday party, when they comment in front of others. At times like this, we have decided we will leave quietly or ask them to leave if they are at our home. We make it clear that although we are leaving the premises, we are not leaving the relationship. We still love my relative, but we won't tolerate this behavior. I will, however, forgive the behavior because Jesus calls me to, and because I don't like the taste of poison. Thank you for joining me. Actually, I might be able to get the rest of this done. It's just going to go a little over. Tough-skinned and tender-hearted. It may seem like conflicting advice to be so careful with our own motives and manners, but willingly forgive the misplaced or questionable motives and manners of others. But I have learned that this is the best place to park our minds. We must be diligent to weigh our own hearts and actions, but give grace to others who speak ill of us. Lisa Turkhurst is the president at Proverbs 31 Ministries, the organization for which I write and speak. She drew up a wonderful guideline for all of us as we interact with each other during ministry together. When dealing with others, she declares, we should believe the best before we assume the worst. So when a conflict arises or our feathers get ruffled, we shouldn't automatically jump to the conclusion that the other person meant us ill, but give them the benefit of the doubt. Not assume the worst, but believe the best about their motives. I liken this to a phrase my pastor often used when I was a teenager. He said that most people tend to have hard hearts and thin skins, but we as followers of Jesus should be different. Instead, we should be tender-hearted and tough-skinned. Such wonderful advice. When we harden our hearts and let every little offense poke a hole in our happiness, we only hurt ourselves. We are slurping on a smoothie of poison, and we don't even know it. But when we soften our hearts with love for others and toughen our skins against their barbs, we are better equipped to show the compassionate love of Jesus to a watching world. Yes, believe the best. Don't assume the worst. And when it comes to your own words, check your motives and your manners before you engage your mouth. I will have many occasions to open my mouth in the days ahead, but before I engage my lips, I must know with absolute certainty that what I am saying is true. If I know for sure that something is not the truth, I need to be quiet. If I have a strong hunch that something is not the truth, I need to be quiet. If I have even the slightest doubt that something might not be true, I need to be quiet. But just because something is true does not mean I always need to say it. Motives and manners matter. And so, if something is true, but saying it to someone will needlessly hurt their feelings, I need to be quiet. Notice I didn't say I need to lie and tell them something they want to hear. No, I need to say nothing. If something is true, but I know that my reason for saying it is to belittle someone or make them feel guilty, I need to be quiet. If something is true, but I promise to hold it in confidence, I need to be quiet. If something is true, but I know that my reason for saying it is to cause a rift between two people, I need to be quiet. If something is true, but my motive for speaking the truth is to make myself look better by comparison, I need to be quiet. If something is true, and I just feel in my heart that saying it will do nothing but make me feel good in a sinister sort of way, I need to be quiet. Bottom line, more often than not, I need to learn to keep it shut. How about you? I think I have enough duct tape for the both of us. Thank you for joining me for today's video. Wow, that speaks volumes, guys. I hope you've all had a very wonderful day, and I will see you in the next one for part 1 of chapter 6. Bye, guys.